Hi. Um, this video is about my transition. This video is about my transition. I saw my doctor and I was asking her for monthly Gaserelin because I didn't want 3 monthly because this transition is so hard on me. In the way of like, I can't handle what people are saying to me. And I kind of told myself that it pushes me into psychosis. And anxiety. Although it may not be the comments that do it. It may have been that I was holding a space for years where I wouldn't worry about anything. And I think the fact that I wouldn't worry about anything was creating like a pressure inside me that had to come out somehow. And I feel that the way that it came out was by my mind becoming psychotic and it expressing itself that way. And I don't agree with psychosis. I take antipsychotics, and the way I dealt with it was simply by stressing. I stressed myself out, and the psychosis went away. I think it's relevant that when I had a go at someone, it killed my psychosis too. It did. So clearly there are things that a person can do to help psychosis that don't involve medication. I don't really know where I'm going with this video. But I feel like I'm not assertive enough. My doctor said I need to get a thicker skin. And yes, the things she said were mindful. Like if someone said, I don't like your makeup, she would say something like, I don't wear my makeup for you. You know, which is mindful. It's not abusive, it's mindful, you know. And I need to find mindful ways of sort of shooting down, you know, mean comments that I get. And I feel like I do very well if I had some kind of training to do that. Maybe like assertiveness training. But there is a problem. The teacher at the recovery college, which does the assertiveness training, likes to trigger me. I think she's transphobic and she likes to trigger me out of malice. And I need to find some other way, some other class of assertiveness where I can learn how to mindfully stand up for myself, you know, whilst taking into consideration other people's feelings and always being kind to their feelings, you know. And the receptionist, right, at the doctor's said, like, that bothers you, you know, so clearly I think what it is that the first stage of getting what feels like abuse, the natural response is anger. Because it leads to a healthier, more stable state of mind, a more empowered state of mind, where anybody can see things truly as they are, because it's a more stable state of mind. There's more clarity of mind. You know, we can see the comments for what they are and think, oh gosh, I got angry, you know. And it wasn't meant that way, you know, and it's a really beautiful experience because it's where we learn that there is something to learn about these comments that we get, that they're not coming from like a really evil place. I mean, they say that triggers are from past abuse, and there's like this jump into the conclusion that the person was saying it out of a hateful way, from like a hateful way that me, you, anybody have been treated before, and it really, really hurts, you know. And to get a bit angry and to mindfully say, like, I don't appreciate what you're saying, gives a more relaxed state of mind, because it feels like that takes the pressure off, and it gives an opportunity to think that that trigger, it didn't come from a hateful person who hurt me in my past. It just come from an innocent person who was just making a comment, you know. And I was with my doctor and I was saying, like, look, I need monthly Gaserelin injections because I don't know how much more of this I can handle. I want to do it month by month. And I don't know if bullying is something that happens to kids who have been abused. You know, they see everything as like a trigger to the abuse that they've been through, and they perceive it all as bullying. And I feel that this is just my imagination here, but I feel like bullying is something that a person goes through and becomes a beautiful person for having gone through it, and really being forced to understand that the abuse of the past needs to be left in the past, and that what people say now is not coming from that same place. It's I mean, sometimes comments that people make, like this girl said to me, I'm going to use the N word here, so there's a trigger warning, but she called me a nigger when I was in Morrison's, and she meant it in a really flattering way. But I took it that because I'm trans, I'm a nigger, meaning like I have no rights, and everybody treats me like dirt because of the colour of my skin, kind of thing. And I really, really took it the wrong way. But she didn't mean it that way, and that stems back from when I was attacked in the magistrate's court, and I felt that that attack was because I came out as transgender, and they came within an inch of killing me. If they'd have broken my arm, I would have died of a heart attack. Because I was very ill with psychosis at the time, and it would have killed me. And I felt the pain of death. I felt that feeling where like I've got a split second where like my arm's gonna break or it's not, but if it does, that's gonna be the end of me. I'm gonna exist no longer, and that is such a frightening experience. And I've got post-traumatic stress disorder from that. And the feeling, it just keeps coming back and back and back. This intense fear that that my life is going to end. It could be it actually comes at me from 4 ways now. It comes from me like the abuse what I deem to be abuse from people is going to drive me so crazy that I do something stupid or become so scared in myself that I get murdered. It comes from a place where like I'm just going to get murdered, which is a different one. It comes from me for a place where I'm going to commit suicide. And it comes from me from a place where I'm just going to drop dead. And it's all post-traumatic stress disorder from that attack that I had in the magistrate's court. And I think what I have a struggle with is that the experiences that I'm going through, and when I learn to handle it, and like my doctor says, I do need to have a tougher skin. There's two parts to that. I do need to not 100% not go into triggers, because I tried it and it does not help. It makes things a lot worse. It brings a lot more abuse on me that that hurts and causes me a great deal of stress. And I said 2 ways, didn't I? And the other way, I think that if I avoid the triggers and try to not feel my anger. They say that when you're being bullied, not to feel your anger. It's on the internet. And not get triggered, and as I go through this journey, I'm not too impressed with the lighting, actually. It looks pretty fucking awful, actually. Pretty fucking awful. I'm gonna have to do something about it. turn this light on and shut the curtains. Through not going into the triggers and not feeling my anger when I get a trigger, I mean, we definitely live in a hugely different world to the world we lived in the 80s. People's consciousness is 100% different. And through not allowing myself to get triggered, because I can step around triggers and ignore them, and that will give me more power to not only stay out of triggers and stay out of a lot of stress, because triggers cause me a lot of stress. And if I allow myself to get triggered once, then there's a trigger. Triggers just follow it, you know. I'd rather have comments that I can only just handle, you know, again and again and again, rather than comments I can't handle again and again and again. You know what I mean? And that's what happens when I'm triggered. That is what happens for a few hours. And it allows me to be in a more aware state of mind where I can look back at the trigger. I don't even need to look back at the trigger. I can really just forget whatever that trigger was. I mean, no, I tell a lie. I do look back at the triggers. There was a girl in Ferry Meadows, yeah, and she said lay him out. And, you know, kids, it's hard to understand exactly where they're coming from, you know, but I stepped around the trigger that I felt, and it was a very strong trigger, but I stepped right around it, and I walked a few yards, and then I sat down by the lake, and there was these two ducks that came over to me, and a crow that came over to me, and I thought, Jesus, I am so in the right space mentally. You know, this is real. This showed me that, in almost a spiritual way, that I am in the right place. I stepped around this trigger, and look, these animals are coming over to me. They don't come over to someone who is in a bad place, you know. I felt I've really nailed it because of what these animals are doing for me. And I feel very good, because the confusion of what Teal Swan said about going into triggers, and I believed it because I read her completion process book twice. Okay, and I felt desperate. I felt like I need to heal as much as I can, and I thought I'll try going into triggers. But the thing is, the fastest way to heal is to not go into triggers, and to see, what I didn't explain is that the girl who called me a nigger, right? If I hadn't, I didn't really, I did go into a trigger, I did. But even though I looked back at what she said, and I understood what she meant, and she was coming from a good place, and it would have been even better if I had held my anger, like it says in the internet, for me to hold my anger. If I'd held my anger, and I would have maybe got more clarity, more clearness, more of the flavour of what she meant when she said it, and that would have possibly given me a lifted mood because I'm thinking, what a lovely thing that she said about me, if I'd have been able to do that. And I think Teal Swan's way is wrong in that not being triggered is the quickest way to learn the beauty of what people say when they say these challenging things, and I want to learn more and more potentially triggering comments by holding my anger. And I've always got the option of saying to someone, "You're really hurting me by saying that," because that is not rude. That is a perfectly socially acceptable thing to say. You're hurting me by saying that, And they may even come over to me and say, "Look, I didn't mean it that way. I'm so sorry." You know, which the beauty in that is very, very strong, because then it allows me to think about what they said and think of ways in like a pure, clear-headed state of mind where I can think, what did she mean? What does she mean? And not just in the moment, but then later on, I can think about it over and over and try and piece together what it was that she meant. And I know that this girl who's a receptionist for the doctors, she's clearly got past a lot of her triggers by doing it the proper way, by staying present, by holding her anger and getting used to comments that people say to her. And she's in a really, really good place. And I know it because she said to me that bothered him, because for her, those comments really didn't mean shit, and this is vulnerable of me, but I want to be like her. I want to be a beautiful person like her in the way of being able to handle a trigger that isn't really a trigger. It's just some random comment that a person makes. It's just a person expressing themselves, which is always beautiful, and appreciating the beauty in life and how dope life is. Because if I can see life in a really positive way, then, I really hard believe in positivity and seeing the good in life. And I know, Stella Ray proved it, that positivity works. She proved it with logic. And I know that if I embody positivity, I can have a much, much, much better life. I can see options that I can do with my life. I can see jobs that I feel are really positive, that I can get interested in, get better paid, get better colleagues, more fun work. That's all about positivity, you know. Um, and the main thing for me is to be understanding people as beautiful. If I can understand people as beautiful, then that makes me so happy. That's going to lift my mood. That's going to make me feel safe when I'm walking or I'm on the bus or I'm out and about. I'll see these people not as the monsters, and I really don't like to use the word monster, but I was in the magistrate's court, and if they'd broken my arm, I would have died of a heart attack because I was very, very ill. And like I say, I felt the pain of death. I felt that feeling where, like, I'm not going to exist anymore, and it's really, really the worst feeling in the world, and when I look at people, I see people who are, in a way, that kind of monster. And what I need to learn through these, I don't want to call them triggers, I'll just call them comments. I can learn from these comments by not getting triggered, by not getting angry, but having a boundary, and if it gets too much, saying, please, you're hurting me, can you stop, just learning it at my own pace and not having too much pushed at me, in one day. Learn that people are people are good, people have souls, people can be trusted. I mean, I really have been broken that much that I've lost touch with that. And I just want to become a beautiful person. And not just a beautiful person, but a happy person, a person who loves life. And I think that positivity is key to all of that. It's key to recovering from depression. It's key to having the confidence to try new things, try a new partner, try a new job. Positivity is all very relevant in all of that. So I'll leave that with you, and I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.